Hey, what's up, everybody? Pat here, great for recovering alcoholic and addict, just like every day. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe, leave the video a like, drop me a comment, and by all means, share it with somebody who might get something out of it. Happy Saturday, everybody. What a nice day. I actually did one small job this morning, and I went to the gym, had a great workout in, and I've been just sitting around relaxing and enjoying and doing some studying today, which has been a nice day. Anyway. I'm going to go right back to the Just for Today NA meditation, guys. I really like this one. This one actually, after I read it, I actually stopped and thought about it for a few, and it really, I know I say this constantly, that applies, but this was a big part. Well, first of all, the reading's a big part of why I'm being successful up to this point, and I say that only because nothing is guaranteed. If I continue to do what I'm doing, I will continue to get what I'm getting. But if I allow myself to slip or get sloppy in my program, or God forbid I make a mistake and lose my program, then I lose every benefit that comes with it. Sobriety is conditional, guys. Recovery is conditional. It is conditional upon maintaining your program. Always remember that. It's very, very important. And I can't imagine a situation where I would allow. I mean, that's why I do everything I do every day, because I don't want to ever go back to where I came from. This one's titled Unconditional Surrender. Help for addicts begins only when we are able to admit complete defeat. Excuse me. This can be frightening, but it is the foundation on which we have built our lives. Most of us tried everything we could think of before. Most of us tried everything we could think of, exerted every ounce of force possible to fill the spiritual-sized hole inside of us. Nothing. Not drugs, not control and management, not sex, not money, not power or prestige has filled it. We are powerless. Our lives are unmanageable, at least by ourselves alone. Our denial will not change that. So we surrender. We ask a higher power to care for our will and our lives. Sometimes in surrendering, we don't know that a power greater than ourselves exists, which can restore us to wholeness. Sometimes we are not sure if the God of our understanding will care for our unmanageable lives. Our lack of certainty, though, does not affect the essential truth that we are powerless. Our lives are unmanageable. We must surrender. Only by doing so can we open ourselves up wide enough for our old ideas and our past wreckage to be cleared, wide enough for our higher power to enter. Just for today, I will surrender unconditionally. I can make it as easy or as hard as I choose, but either way I will do it. And boy, does that sum up the end of my run, guys. And I started thinking about this reading as I was reading it, and I talk about this a lot. I started praying, and I don't want you guys to I don't want it to be misconstrued. I had started praying months before, but that didn't mean I had any answers. It didn't mean at that point that I had the hope that I did. I had a spark. I had a desire, I had a willingness, and I had a willingness to admit defeat, and that's all I needed at that point, guys. But I didn't know, by any means. I knew if I got off the drugs, things would be better. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had no idea I was beginning this amazing situation that I've managed to put together, that my higher powers has been kind enough to give to me, right? The desire, the spark of hope, the health. Like, I've stepped up my game. I have bought in fully. I was still very unsure at that point, guys. I honestly thought that I was, and this is a very common misconception amongst all, and there's a reason I think it's important to bring this up. While we're still in that bad place, we always think that we are the one person that's different than anybody else, that we're the one exception to the rule, that recovery cannot work for us. Hear me very, very clearly. That is not the case, guys. And again, this is why I get on here and I'm so vulnerable and open with you guys, because of the totality of everything I've been through, the length of time that I stayed out there, the things that I survived while I was out there, the fact that I've been able to literally just put them down without any major, consequence, right? And within reason, I'm saying I've been able to heal from them without it being like, without it, leaving any lasting impression. I'm still learning things constantly. That's the one thing I did know, is I didn't know a damn thing. And I think that was the most important lesson. The most important gift I was given was the clarity to understand that everything I was doing, everything I was thinking, every way I looked at everything was completely ass backwards. And that was the most important and the most beautiful gift I was given, because it made me willing to drop everything. And sometimes that's what we have to do in surrender, guys. You gotta let everything go. And I know how scary that is. I was there. Like, oh my God, it was scary. I was breaking down crying every time I tried to talk. And I'm willing to say that because what that did for me was opened me up. It gave me a completely blank slate to start completely fresh. And if I didn't like a thought that I had, I let it go and I reached for another one that did sound good, that did feel aligned, that did, make me feel good about things. And that's what I built upon. But guys, don't think for a second that early on that I thought I had this in the bag. I was absolutely terrified. I was clueless. I had no idea. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to come home and find out that somebody was living in my apartment, that I was suddenly homeless, that I didn't, that even though, because guys, you don't know. When you're dealing with the wreckage of your past, when you owe people tens of thousands of dollars, just because they say they're going to hold your place, I thought that might be an excuse to get me out the door so they could have somebody move in. And I was prepared for that because I knew at that point, if I didn't go to rehab, it was going to happen. There was no question. I was told blatantly, point blank, I will evict you and put you on the street if you don't go to rehab. I'll give you. And so I took the chance. And again, I stopped and I thought about this. I had actually had a conversation with my landlord back in the summer of last year, letting him know that, yeah, I'm having trouble. Yes, I'm gonna find a way. And he's like, well, why don't you go to rehab? And I'm like, I was fighting against rehab back then. At that point, I still thought I could find a way around it, and that was just asinine. I just wasn't ready to give up yet. But I had the desire, I had the spark, and that's what led me to prayer. And then when prayer led me to rehab, and then rehab got me to really start getting introspective and understanding that I needed a lot. I needed the clarity before I could take another step. And fortunately, I was given the gift of desperation. I was beaten into submission enough to get me to rehab. And then when I got there, I started to really, ask my higher power for signs and steps, and just give me the next step. Don't give me the totality. Don't let me get overwhelmed. Just show me, put in my path what I need to do next. And literally, one by one. First, it was the book I was given that was about scientific prayer. Then it was a counselor that was offering me before even the IOP. It was a counselor that helped me get a new primary care physician that allowed me to get the medically assisted treatment, so they could, medicate me with Suboxone at the rehab, and then I could get the Sublocade as soon as I get out of there. And from there, it was IOP, so I got hooked up with Riverside Recovery. I volunteered for the IOP program, and literally, guys, I was given a doctor's appointment for January 6th, and that's when I stayed at the rehab, too. I literally stayed there until 2 hours before my doctor's appointment, because I didn't want to leave the rehab and have there be any chance of going out and having somebody offer me drugs and being weak and not getting on my appointment. I knew at that point that I didn't have anything in the bag. I had a desire to stay, to give this life a shot, but I had, up until walking out of the rehab, I didn't know, because I know my history. So even though I was working, I was doing this, I was doing that, I was doing everything I could to reinforce it with myself, because I know in the past that if I was walking out of the rehab, and I was terrified, guys, because I always left rehab and went to like a holding cell and then a halfway house, and I would stay clean throughout those programs because they were structured environment. But I knew I was leaving rehab to go home, and that was absolutely terrifying, because I know every single time in the past, the minute I got out of a structured environment, a facility, I failed, and I did this time as well. But this time it was different because it wasn't my drug of choice, and it was enough to show me that I had to get out of the house. And I've talked about that enough times, and helped the girl with the car and started everything the next day, and that was perfect. It was just enough of a slip that I got to reset my date, so my entire sobriety date now consists of time on my own, which means a lot to me. I know it sounds like semantics to others, but those of you that know, or if anybody for my particular case, when I look back and say, oh, I've had a year clean when I was locked up for a year, when I had a year, no, and I didn't even, I used in jail. I had 9 months clean when I was in 6 months, and then, no, I always managed to fail. I always managed to relapse. I have not slipped since, I've reset my day to the night that I had that slip, the night I got out of rehab, and all my clean time is now me working my program on my own, in my home, putting my business together, putting my life together. But it's The difference this time around was the surrender. I didn't put any of my conditions on it. Well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. No, I sat back and said, God, show me your steps to me. I'm not putting my, and I still don't. People ask me all the time, and I keep it very open-ended. What are you going to do? Whatever God shows me to do. I literally get up every day and I look at my responsibilities and I go about them, but I haven't put my spin on anything. I'm just taking the signs and synchronicities that my higher power is giving me, and I'm doing the best I can with it. And it's working really, really well for me because I have no expectations. I have no demands. I have no reason to be let down by anything. I've only been excited and hopeful. And then I found that having that excited, hopeful attitude walking into every day is opening me up for blessings in every way, shape, or form. It's allowed miracles to manifest in my existence regularly, whether they be just the way that my brain is changing, the way that I look at the world is changing, the way I interact, the way I care about other people now, the fact, the way I found compassion, the way that I found love for myself, the way that I found confidence in who I am, that I'm willing to speak my opinions because I'm not trying to, overwhelm anybody or oppress anybody with my opinions. I'm trying to be a part of the solution, not push along a problem, right? And this is all because I've surrendered. Like, I understood early on that everything I was doing, everything I was thinking, everything I wanted was just ass wrong. And that's terrible. I'm sorry to say that, because at one point I was I've been messed up for a long time. But there's a lot of very good points about me. But I had been dealing with a set of shitty parameters so long that, like anybody else, guys, PTSD and everything else, and that's the thing I would have told you back then. I know PTSD. I can handle anything. No, I was diagnosed with severe PTSD by both the rehab and Riverside Recovery and my primary care physician. They all had to tell me that I was acting the way I was acting and I was thinking the way I was thinking because of severe PTSD, severe childhood trauma, severe abandonment issues. And now I understand that. But here's the thing, guys. Because I surrendered, and because I've taken everything from a position of surrender, I'm not walking around being, acting the victim, playing a victim card, and I'm not feeling victimized. I'm feeling empowered. I'm feeling more confident and happy in who I am because I'm finding out who the person behind all that bullshit was, because I surrendered all of that. And that's what we talk about, surrender, guys. Surrendering is the most beautiful thing it's the most beautiful gift you can possibly give yourself, because you give yourself, depending on how far you're willing to surrender. And for myself, I went with the full unconditional surrender. I know it's not easy, guys, and I understand it's funny. Some of the bullshit that I went through that's cost me so much that people look at me and they, when they hear my story, they're horrified and they wonder how I made it through all that. And then they wonder how I'm able to reach the heights and I'm able to right now unaffected by that. Well, part of that was the fact that all the shit that I dealt with made it fairly easy for me to completely surrender everything I had, right? And a lot of people have, wives, kids, have built things. Well, I've lost everything I've built over and over and over and over again, to the point where I have a detachment game that few people ever know, and I hope not, because I'm using it like anything else. You can take anything and make it a strength, and I'm using it as a strength today because I'm taking everything and making a positive out of it, and that's a choice. That's another very good point, guys. You can literally decide to make a positive of anything if you tailor your life to your strengths and to your soul's true purpose. I've got a detachment game that few people could ever match, but that came at the cost of everything that ever mattered to me for 40 years being taken away from me. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, guys, there was times that I owned houses and got thrown in jail and lost them. I owned businesses that had, $750,000 in tools and equipment taken from me because I got thrown in jail and I couldn't protect it. That's tough. Like, I don't want anybody to have to go through that. But for myself, this time around, I let all that shit go. I surrendered all that and said, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm learned not to dwell. And you take enough losses, you get to, you learn to get over losses like anything else. But that's part of my strength. So what I did, rather than dwelling and letting it change the person I am, I fully surrendered everything and started reprogramming my brain to look just for today and tomorrow, and really focus on today with thoughts of tomorrow being there. You know what I'm saying? But I focus on the moment. I focus on the task at hand. I focus at the opportunities at my feet. I focus on lifting my foot now to take the next step, and then trusting full well that God is showing me where to put my foot down. And it's worked amazing for me, guys. Like, it's shocking. Like, I'm literally everywhere I go, I'm the shining star of recovery. And I don't like saying that, but I'm saying it because if you do the work, you'll get the results. And I'm not saying for myself. I'm saying for you, for anybody, for all of us. You know, us as a whole. So, but I've taken all those things other people look at and don't know how I made it through. Well, I made it through because I had no other choice at the time, and I let it not affect me by handing it to my higher power, by full unconditional surrender. Because I saw that when I started taking leaps of faith early on and listening to the messages I was getting from my higher power, that's where all the goodness had to come from. Like, my big thing walking into rehab was I was so negative, I didn't know, blah, blah, blah. I talk about this all the time. And every bit of that came to me through prayer and meditation. It came as a direct result from my higher power, a direct message or a direct opportunity put in my path by my higher power. Because I was paying attention, I was being faithful, I was asking for help, and I was taking the help being offered. Taking leaps of faith by being honest. And that's the other thing, guys. I was brutally, brutally honest, in particularly when it was scary. I've talked about it many times by, quitting my job when I knew it was a bad place to be. Putting Riverside Recovery before work. Like, in the past, I've been like, oh, I gotta take care. No. Everything else will be taken care of if I do things right. I gotta take care of me first. I gotta take care of the needs the uncomfortable stuff, the stuff that's gonna make me cry in front of a therapist and cry in a meeting. And that's the shit that clearly is the biggest problem. And that's what I've done, is I've given my attention to the biggest problems and one by one knocked them out. And then by doing so, all of a sudden these miracles just started being dropped in my lap, whether it was the money from the state to clear up my back rent, opportunity to get a scholarship for Harvard, the idea to start my YouTube channel, the opportunity to start my business. I mean, guys, I'm just a little over, I'm not even quite 7 months. I'm halfway to 7 months, 6.5 months in. And my life has already gotten to a point where I'm shocked. Like, literally, I talked about this before. If you, as early back as, never mind, if you told me the day that I got out of rehab I'd be doing what I'm doing right now, I wouldn't have believed you, and I had hope then. If you told me back at Thanksgiving of last year that any of this stuff would be going on in my life right now, I would have said absolutely not. There's no possible way I could do that, and I couldn't. But by getting out of my own way and surrendering unconditionally to my higher power, by giving my attention to the program, by putting sobriety first, and by chasing recovery as hard as I chase the drugs, my entire life is a living, walking miracle. And I love it. I love it very much. Guys, happy Saturday. Everybody going out tonight, be safe. Don't drink and drive. Don't drink and drive. Guys, stay sober. Be your best self. Try unconditional surrender. It is the most rewarding thing. It will shock you what you are capable of and what your higher power will do for you. Guys, always remember, God loves you. I love you. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one.